Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram 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 Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare.
To Bhakti Sangha conference call. Thank you all so much for joining us today. May I know who are on the call today? May I know who are on the call today?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for all this channels.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the assembled devotees, Shri Guru and Gauranga. This is Shashidhar joining from Texas.
Hare Krishna, Shashidhar Prabhu. Thank you so much for being there with us all the time and the way that you chanting. This is Sri Devila from Devila. Thank you so much for your warm welcome to the call, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna, Prithvilasni Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karunadevi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karunadevi Dasi. Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you so much, Mataji, for being there. Support. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. that. Anyone else would like to say?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. This is Shivani from Ash, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shivani Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining us and giving us the association from wherever you are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Priti Vidasini Mataji Dandavat Pranam Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Priti Dasi Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Radha for joining us and everybody for today. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you're breaking. We cannot hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
voice is very low.
I know. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes the connection is very weak here. So what happens? Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So today we have Sri Caitanya Bhagavat. And before we go ahead with the call today, I would like to read the quote of Srila Prabhupada for today.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, I lost the quote.
Okay.
I'm not able to look it up.
Mataji, can I look it up?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, wait. Just give me like a second.
So
I had it right here. It was one sec.
Hare Krishna, can I read it out?
yes, Mataji.
Devotees, they are paradukha dukhi. The symptom of a devotee is they are unhappy by seeing others unhappy. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Today's class will be given by His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhu. Prabhuji, thank you so much for giving us the most valuable association on this call. You can now take over the class. So we'll be reading from Sri Caitanya Bhagavata. This is going to be Adi Khanda, chapter 14, verses 115 and 116.
Hare Krishna. Can I start?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada and all of you. Before we read, we'll just offer some prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we are reading from Caitanya Bhagavata Adi Leela, chapter 14, text number 115 and 116. अनेक पडुया सब प्रभु रसहिते चलिले न प्रभु स्थाने तताई पढ़िते. Many students came to Navadvipa with the Lord to continue studying under him. हे नई समये एक सुकृति ब्राह्मणा Ati Saragrahi Nama Mishra Tapanam. Meanwhile, a pious swan-like Brahmana named Tapan Mishra arrived there. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Mahaprabhu is coming back to Navadvip after finishing his tour in East Bengal. Those days, nowadays it is called Bangladesh. So he didn't know yet about his dear Lakshmi Priya left her body feeling separation from the Lord. So he was still returning to Navadvipa, and several devotees, they still continued to accompany him because they were learning wonderfully, had a very exciting time, because Nimai Pandita has already established in all our learned circle that he is the best in the Lord, both in terms of the technicalities of the Vedic knowledge, as well as in explaining and presenting to them. Tapan Mishra Prabhu, who is a very nice Brahmana, who is going to serve Mahaprabhu in different capacity in the preaching mission. He has just arrived to see Nimai Pandita. What he will do with Nimai Pandita, what discussions they are going to have. They are going to have some interesting heart-to-heart conversations. And those heart-to-heart conversations, we are going to learn some lessons also. Those are all left for future proficient speakers. I'm supposed to just deal with these two verses and see what lessons that we can churn out from this current context. The word swan lake is a very important attribute to be associated with a Brahmana. Swans are having a special skill. Hangsa. I have not personally seen it, but I have definitely heard it more than once, that these birds, swan, they can extract, if you put milk and water together, they can extract milk alone. So a Brahmana is considered swan-like because he knows to make sense out of every situation and try to stay focused in spirituality. In the purport, the Prabhu who has done the translation has done a very nice explanation about the different stages and classifications of the Brahmana, who is called Saragrahi Brahmana, because Tapan Mishra is glorified here as Ati Saragrahi. Just for the sake of those who have not heard about it or not read it, I'll just read. It's not a very big purport. I'll just read a portion of them. The phrase Sukriti Brahmana is explained as follows. Purport of 116. In this universe, Brahmanism or knowledge of the absolute, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman is the highest platform and the ultimate goal of all pious activities. If a knower of Brahman engages his mind in serving the lotus feet of the Supreme Brahman Lord Vishnu, then the limit of his fortune is incomparable. In the Garuda Purana, it is stated, quote unquote, it is said that out of thousands of Brahmanas, one is qualified to perform sacrifices, and out of many thousands of such qualified Brahmana who are expert in sacrificial offerings, one learned Brahmana may have passed beyond all Vedic knowledge. He is considered the best among all these Brahmanas, and yet out of thousands of such Brahmanas who have surpassed Vedic knowledge, one person may be a Vishnu Bhakta, and he is most famous. Out of many thousands of such Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of Lord Krishna is most famous. Such a person is called Saragrahi or swan-like. The opposite of Saragrahi is Bharavahi or ass-like. In other words, those who are unable to understand the purport of the Vedas and literatures and pursuance of the Vedas, and who are busy with external considerations due to foolishness, are Bharavahi, not Saragrahi. Materialists, karmis, and jnanis are called Bharavahis. Only the pure devotees or Vaishnavas are clever and intelligent. They give up the worthless ass-like mentality and become properly situated in understanding the confidential purport of all scriptures. The reason this Vrindavan Das Thakura has nicely, used this adjective swan-like is because he wanted to actually highlight the status, that's my reflection, of how Brahmanas are in Kali Yuga. Because typically, a person who is called Brahmana is knowledgeable, his practices are spotless, and he is always God-centered. But then, in Kali Yuga, because of the effects of Kali, especially as the time progresses further in Kali Yuga, the Brahmanism is slowly deteriorating. If you see the verse 117, the very next verse, Vrindavan Das Thakura is writing, he was confused about the goal of life and the means for attaining it. Moreover, he could not find anyone to clear his confusion. In the previous verse, Vrindavan Das Thakur has glorified Tapan Mishra as Saragrahi, Ati Saragrahi. And very nicely we just read, who is a Saragrahi? Classified of Brahmana. One who has not just learned, one who have not just surpassed the learning, one who is just not a Vishnu Bhakta, one who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. That Ati Saragrahi Brahmana, Tapan Mishra, was confused. So Mahaprabhu is going to have a very interesting dialogue with Tapan Mishra. So we will all learn, you'll all learn as you all proceed. So, but we're going to churn some nectar today from this current context. So I have, as usual, some set of reflections. So I will share my reflections in 3 parts. The first reflection is about the Brahmana and the need of one in our Sankirtan mission. Srila Prabhupada many times boasted, many times Srila Prabhupada has publicly declared the purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement is to create first-class men, women, primarily first-class devotees. First-class devotees means Brahmanas. Brahmanosya mukamasid bahura janyakritaha. Srila Prabhupada very clearly understood and he was well informed that Kali Yuga's evil effects will not spare even the Brahmanas. So much so that Brahmanas will only be a name like one in Kali Yuga, but in actual practices, they would have been defeated. Those of you who hail from a Brahminical community or those who know about Brahmanism in traditional Vedic setup, they command a very high respect in the society. In fact, just by the title, because Brahmanas used to get their specific title, Sharma, Chaube, and so many such names. But unfortunately, today, significant amount of such Janayudhari Brahman are leading a life much worse than a Sudra. Some of them are security guards, policemen working in oil rigs, doing some Ugra Karma activity. Even so much so that they have started a non-vegetarian restaurants too. I have some friends who are from a very typical Orthodox Brahmin family, but they had an interest for becoming a chef, international chef. Didn't bother about the principles of spirituality, they got into it and the parents couldn't stop them. I know some of the, children of the pujaris of Lord Sri Ranganath in Sri Rangam, who have the rights to continue worshipping the Lord. Because in Sri Rangam tradition, somehow they have maintained the blood relationship as the main relationship, where the family used to have the rights who can worship the Lord. Of course, they also look at their initiated and their practices, but at least by the virtue of a person being born in that family, if he go through the practices correctly, he will even worship that Supreme Lord, who was worshipped by so many great personalities and who is in this planet since the ages. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly understood what was coming up. So Srila Prabhupada's primary agenda for setting up this Krishna consciousness movement is to create Brahmanas, to create first-class men. And when Srila Prabhupada said that, Srila Prabhupada's agenda of creating first-class Brahmana, not from the perspective of just the so-called namesake show bottle one. He wanted us to be leading the society by example. As I have shared in the some of the earlier sessions, ISKCON setup is actually a template, is actually something that Srila Prabhupada created to create some sort of a role modeling so that the society at large could implement and form a Krishna conscious lifestyle, spiritual lifestyle, God-centered lifestyle. Because in Varnashrama days, in Vedic civilization days, there is no concept of movements. There were, guru go to disciples, the disciple go to guru, and they were all families, lifestyles, communities. They were helping each other, and there was a very wonderful ecosystem of God-centered civilization. When they were all compromised for sense gratificatory needs. So some arrangement had to be done. So the way like how Lord Shiva came as Shankaracharya at the beginning of Kali Yuga to re-establish Vedas, Caitanya Mahaprabhu and the followers of Caitanya Mahaprabhu came up with a very important agenda to re-establish Bhakti movement, to re-establish, to revive a lost trend, to ensure that in this Kali Yuga, if somehow or other we latch on to the process recommended by these great personalities, we still have a hope. That is why this period of 10,000 years, right from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, is classified as Swarna Yuga in Kali Yuga. And a Yuga, a period, cannot be Swarna Yuga unless and otherwise there is somebody, a role model, a leader, a Brahmana leading the society. So we have to the reason I am trying to address this, the need of a Brahmana in our society, or the need for we becoming Brahmanas to make sure Prabhupada's purpose is fulfilled. I would recollect the paragraph, the point that Srila Prabhupada writes in the preface to Nectar of Instruction, wherein he writes, the purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement is to create Goswamis. So we have a very important responsibility to build our standard up, and it is nicely explained that when the Brahmanas are properly situated, then everybody else will be properly situated. If the Brahmanas are not properly situated, then everything else will get collapsed. The Varnashrama Dharma Varnashrama system survived because of a Brahmana. Varnashrama collapsed because of a Brahmana. When the Brahmanas performed their duties correctly, as well as with dharma-centric, God-centric, Varnashrama system thrived. When they started to digress towards sense gratificatory agenda, in the garb of a Brahmana, misusing the power and position of a Brahmana, trying to take undue advantage of the privileges of a Brahmana, everything started to collapse like a pack of cards. So we as students of Krishna consciousness movement, we as students of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, we need to remember that we have a responsibility to fulfill. If not, try to imitate or be a Brahmana, at least we behave in a manner to serve a Brahmana, to follow the instructions of a Brahmana, and try to cooperate with a Brahmana so that the movement for the purpose it is set for is going to go and spread its wings for the next several years to come. As Prabhupada predicted, at least for the next 9,950 years more. Because 50 years since Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON is over, 52 years are over. So my first reflection here is that Caitanya Mahaprabhu in the future, after he is going to take sannyas, his agenda was to give more attention, importance, to bring everyone under the Sankirtan Andolan, Sankirtan mission, and to give extra attention to those who are qualified to lead them. Mahaprabhu personally spent his quality time with whom he considered as the role models, which are the Goswamis, Ramananda Rai, and few of his very confidential servants. Of course, more Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar are more for emotional connect, but specifically Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatana in particular, were missionaries. So for us, as a practitioners, as a student of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, we need to understand that we have to become missionary, if not, at least support one. Being a missionary, being a responsible soldier is not an ordinary act. We have to go through several layers of purification, several layers of refinement, several layers of progression in our thought process and consciousness, and to be situated in such a state where our thoughts, feelings, actions are centered towards the desires of our acharyas, centered towards fulfilling the orders of our acharyas, making sure that there is no place left in the world where the Sankirtan flag is not hoisted. So number one reflection in this current context when we are discussing about Ati Sara Grahi Brahmana. So we are all given a entry pass to participate in such a assembly where we can purify our existence and can eventually become Ati Sara Grahi Brahmana and much further, not for us to carry the title, but for us to make sure that this human form of life is properly channelized. Number two, second reflection is, yes, this is all very very glorious to say that, to become a Brahmana, missionary, it'll all sound very exciting. It is like, no, when we are studying in school, we are always taught about how to take admission in most prestigious institutions. Over here in India, IITs and few other famous institutions are there. To get enrolled in such an institution, such an university, is very prestigious because life gets set. I'm sure over there in US, there are different, for different streams, different schools are chosen. The aspiration to get into that university is very high, that the students are preparing for that for 3, 4, 5, 6 years sometimes. But the interesting fact is, the real challenge starts after we get enrolled in that school. To get inside that school is definitely glorious. But once we are part of that school, we are expected to perform. If we don't perform, if we kind of let loose ourselves or try to be overconfident and not take our admission seriously, then we will become a laughing stock. There is a very nice folk song in South India that is generally, sung by the villagers. It's a Tamil song. There used to be a beggar. This beggar did not have even a proper container, a vessel to go and beg alms. So he went to a pot maker and said, my dear friend, I don't have money. I'm going to go around to beg alms. Will you please help me with one pot? Can you make one for me? That guy is a businessman, so he said, I can make, but only when I get free time. Or I'll keep making as and when I get time, and I'll give you when it's ready. So it took almost 9-10 months for that guy to make that pot. So this beggar, when he finally got the pot, the mud pot, he got super excited that he started jumping up and down, and in the process broke that pot. Nandavanathil or Andi, avan nalaru madamai kuyavanai vendi kondu vandan oru thondi, adai koothadi potudetandi. So number one reflection was to understand the importance of our being in Krishna consciousness movement and the responsibility associated with that, and how glorious it is. Now that we are part of it, the real act is to perform. The song that I sung is actually, referring to the story that I narrated. That beggar, 10 months he kept on checking, is my pot ready, pot ready, pot ready. So the comparison is, this human form of life, especially we from a very blessed families, those of us who have got opportunity to be part of this Krishna consciousness mission, those of us who have got opportunity to be in the association of devotees. So we have got this human form of life after begging the Lord, pleading the Lord, my dear Lord, please let me come out of the mother's womb. I will assure you, I will be responsible. I will behave in a responsible manner. But if we don't hold on to this pot, hold on to this vessel, hold on to this container, hold on to this, opportunity for the purpose for which we have come here, and behave in a reckless manner, it is similar to adai koothadi potudetandi. Just by jumping up and down that I am now blessed with the container, and after all the endeavor, it's srama eva hi kevalam, simply waste of time. So as a part of second reflection, I would like to, measure and mention, as a Brahmana, as an aspirant to become a missionary, as a student of a very interesting process of Krishna consciousness, we are expected to follow certain characteristics. I would like to list 4 of them today. Because we are talking about the Brahmanism, we are talking about the importance of why we need to be first class. So there are 4 primary qualities that we need to have. I was hearing a lecture of Maharaj from UK. He made very interesting statement, which is in connection with the 4 qualities that we are supposed to subscribe for us to become Brahmana, for us to get qualified, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to preach to Tapan Mishra. He is going to help Tapan Mishra. Through Tapan Mishra, he is going to help all of us to inculcate the very important, sense of responsibility of a human being. So the 4 qualities that are in general required for a student who are aspirant to become a Brahmana are: live without pretending, hear without defending, speak without offending, and love without expecting. Live without pretending. A Brahmana, or a person who is expected to be a missionary, who is expected to conduct himself in a responsible manner, the least that is expected of him is not to pretend. When the real Brahmanas started to pretend, honesty collapsed. So live without pretending means, as students, as aspirant Brahmanas, or as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we need to learn to live our inner life in a responsible manner. Because Krishna consciousness is more within than without. If we live the outside part of Krishna consciousness nicely, but the inside part of Krishna consciousness, if they are not nice, as it is explained, as like the opposite of, Ati Saragrahi is Bharavahi. Those who are behaving in a reckless, behaving like a donkey. Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 15, purport. Why is discussing about 4 types of dushkritinas. We discussed this Saturday in our regular program about the 3rd type called Mayaya Apahrita Jnana. And Srila Prabhupada writes that these category of dushkritinas are not someone who is stupid, or not someone who is fools, not someone who is disqualified, not someone who is, by category bad. But somehow, because of their recklessness, because of their carelessness, they let Maya steal away their intelligence. Prabhupada writes, scholars, scientists, panditas, they fall into this category because somehow they are drawn towards the illusory energy of the Lord. Yadi dasyasi me kaman varam swamvara darshabam kamanam hridaya samroham bhavatastu vrinevaram. Srimad Bhagavatam 7:10-7. Prahlad Maharaj is offering this prayer to Narsinghadev. Yadi dasyasi me kaman. I am a servant and my heart is filled with, kama, lust. If you ever want to give me a boon, which Narsinghadev was insisting to give one to Prahlad Maharaj, he was saying what? Kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vrinevaram. Please remove the sense gratificatory propensity from my heart. Because that propensity will make us to become the third category of Dushkritina called Mayaya Apahrita Jnana. So the Brahmanas, if they lead the life of a Brahmana externally, but internally, if they don't have these four qualities, the qualities just live without pretending means honesty, hear without defending means humility, speak without offending means sensitivity, and love without expecting means purity. And a Brahmana or a student of, Krishna consciousness movement is expected. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was very particular about these things. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is very strong, very stern when it comes to these four qualities. So my second reflection I want to state here that as students, for us to be part of this missionary agenda, at least we be part of the solution side, not part of the problem side. We have to definitely be understanding these four qualities at least. These four qualities helps us to revive, to regain our devotional stature. Honesty, humility. When we say sensitivity, it means that how much we are able to have compassion, how much we are able to have compassion, self-compassion, as well as empathizing others. Because a Brahmana's duty is to be compassionate. And how we have to also learn to have the sense of purity. If you ever always challenge about purity versus perfection, the Brahmana will swing towards purity. A devotee will swing towards purity. We may be imperfect, but our purity will take us forward. So these qualities that are required to inculcate, that are supposed to be manifesting, that are supposed to be supporting ourselves, so that we can become a sincere student and win ourselves and win several other people to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada will be able to bring in a smile in the face of Srila Prabhupada, which is considered as a success of Krishna consciousness. So this is my second reflection. In fact, we have to remember that Janmana Jayate Shudra. By birth, we are all Shudras. Samskara iti bhavet Dvija. By samskaras, we become Dvijas. Veda Padat iti Vipra. By studying Vedas, we become Vipra. But Brahma Janati Brahmana. This is what the purport we have discussed. Even if you have come to the level of understanding, the Supreme Brahman, even to the level of becoming Vishnu Bhakta. But if you have not engaged yourself, aligned yourself in the service of the Supreme Lord, very nicely this Prabhu was writing, out of many such thousands Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of the Lord Krishna is the most famous. Such a person is called Saragrahi, swan-like. Because a person who is fixed in the service of the Lord, for him, he knows what his priorities will be. He knows what are the words that he is supposed to use. What are the choices? He knows to make his choices very clearly, cleverly. He will not make wrong choices. He will not make wrong conclusions. Third and last reflection. Srila Prabhupada had established this Krishna consciousness movement with one aspirational, target, which is to revive Varnashrama. Of course, he initially set up the Sankirtan mission, set up the base nicely, set up the framework nicely, set up the process nicely, set up the structure nicely, and left it for us to fill in the blanks and make sure we try to present Krishna consciousness as a way of life, not just as a part of life. As it is very nicely explained, there are 6 or 5 different stages of progression of consciousness. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. Brahmanas are those who are students of Krishna consciousness process are supposed to be at least in Vijnanamaya, if not in Anandamaya. If we still dwell on Annamaya, Annamaya means functioning like that of a Shudra, bothering only about the bodily needs, thinking only about the sense gratificatory propensities, utilizing all the resources for your sensual pleasure. This is Annamaya. Pranamaya is economic development. Only focus on Hare Mani, Hare Mani, Mani Mani, Hare Hare. Only constantly looking at, how we can make more money at any cost. Everything is measured in the form of a dollar amount as a success. For sure, we are not diminishing the need of it. But that's not the center of it. But Pranamaya Sharira, the people who are in Pranamaya, they are all more like a Vaishyas, are constantly working towards economic development and centered around economic thinking. Manomaya and Jnanamaya at least start to think about religiosity, quest for religion, quest for dharmic life, because some thinking is kicked in. But Vijnanamaya, that's when we start to realize that we are not this body. We start to understand Brahma Bhuta, Prasannatma, na sochati, na kamshati. Srila Prabhupada says we have an elevator which can take someone to go from Annamaya stage to the Anandamaya stage. Anando Vyabhyasat. So just by be subscribing to this process of Krishna consciousness, as it is mentioned in this purport, that materialist karmis and jnanis are called Bharavahis. Only the pure devotees and Vaishnavas are clever and intelligent. They give up the worthless ass-like mentality and become properly situated in understanding the confidential purport of all scriptures. So every word is very interesting, very nicely, written here. Understanding the confidential purport of all scriptures. Sachinandan Maharaj very nicely explains this. What is this confidential part? It's all written open. The confidentiality is that in spite of it is written, we will not understand it unless we are going to serve, learn under, and follow a bona fide spiritual authority. So my third reflection is for us to transport to the Anandamaya. for us to transport, to realize and perform our duty to recreate Daiva Varnashrama. Because the Varnashrama, even now we have Varnashrama. In one sense, we do have classification, but this is Asuric Varnashrama, Pravritti Varnashrama. It's simply based on bodily arrangement, simply based on financial arrangement, simply based on just work and skill related. In a very distorted way. Srila Prabhupada wanted to revive them. So for us to go to that stage of consciousness, we better need to learn to align ourselves, to learn the confidential purport. The example is always given about how an automobile engineer, when he opens the broken down car, even though we would have stared at the same parts of the engines, same parts of the vehicle, we would not know. We will be seeing them, but we will not be seeing them. But then automobile engineer who is qualified, educated, trained, will be able to fix the problem. So it is very nicely explained that in our journey to Krishna consciousness, for us to become Brahmanas, for us to come to the stage of Anandamaya, we need to learn to perform some responsible act of choosing our spiritual authorities, choosing our spiritual master and trying to serve, work under his authority and try to learn the process of Krishna consciousness for applying them. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami Pad explains. He says, Guru Padashrayas Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Sikshanam Vishrambena Guru Seva Sadhu Vartmano Vartanam. He says, submission to the lotus feet of the spiritual master, receiving training from him and taking initiation into this process, and serving the spiritual master with affectionate zeal. Vishrambena Guru Seva, following the path of saints. These four will help us to get situated in the consciousness which Srila Prabhupada wants us to get situated. So for this thread to sustain, to move forward, we need to help one another. Srila Prabhupada has done his part. Srila Prabhupada's servants have done their parts. Now it is the duty for all of us to buckle up, rake ourselves up, raise our standard above, and start thinking about application of Krishna consciousness in our lives and application of Krishna consciousness in others' life. We should not just remain superficial and bookish. A very nice story in this connection. There was a Brahmana, very nice Brahmana. And unfortunately, this nice Brahmana could not train his son to be a nice Brahmana. All through the life, this boy did not learn from his father, neither learned anything useful in life. After his father's death, this boy didn't know anything else to do. So he thought that at least let me try to imitate my father and I may get some respect and try to make my life. So he went to a place in some location and near the ocean or somewhere and started to perform meditation, showing off to say that he is trying to behave like a Brahmana and attract everyone's attention. So one sadhu came there and the sadhu said, "My dear friend, what are you trying to do?" He said, "I am performing meditation." So sadhu asked, "Who is your spiritual master?" Under whose direction you are doing this? So this boy said that I don't have any spiritual master. I don't need one. I know what to do, so I am just doing it. So this sadhu shrugged his shoulder and left. And little while later, the sadhu was collecting some sand and was putting on the ocean. From the shore, he was collecting more sand and was putting on the ocean. Collecting more sand from the shore and was putting on the ocean. So this boy was performing meditation. He was asking, my dear sadhu, what are you doing? He said that I am constructing a bridge to cross this ocean. So this this Brahmana, apparently son of a Brahmana boy, he started laughing. Will you make bridge like this? How will you make bridge like this? And the sadhu said, if you can think that you can learn Vedic literature and try to get properly situated just by studying on your own without a spiritual authority, probably it is much easier for me to make a bridge like this. This is a story that is referred in Mahabharata in one particular context to say that for us to be properly situated, to come to express our weakness, to come to express about our confusion, to come to express about our need and aspiration to grow in Krishna consciousness, we might need to choose the right authority and come and follow at his feet, which is exactly what Tapan Mishra is doing. Tapan Mishra, by the glorification that we have heard about him as a swan-like Brahmana, realized his situation. He's coming and asking for help. That is why his name is etched in the history. So for us, in the journey of Krishna consciousness, to be situated as a Brahmana, as trying to be a Brahmana, to be contributing towards Daiva Varnashrama goal, to be situated in Anandamaya stage, to be making progress, we need to latch on to a bona fide spiritual authority and the process of spiritual practices under him, by which we will be able to get revived back and be properly situated. So many stories have been spoken on this connect. The story of Dasarathi, who was one of the foremost disciples of Ramanujacharya. He was made to go through such a wonderful experience by Ramanujacharya for one long year before he was engaged in some other services. So the point is that in our Vedic history, it's not the first time we see where a great saintly persons seek further higher up saintly persons, serve them, express their heart to them, and reveal the desire to serve and be properly situated. So I want to say my third reflection hence is that we need to rise up to the level of Anandamaya, if not Anandamaya, at least rise up to the level of Vijnanamaya, where we are realizing that we have much more thing to do beyond our bodily things, and for which we need to openly, freely accept our shortcoming and surrender to a bona fide spiritual authority. And for us, we have very well defined process. If you read Bhagavad Gita 4.34 purport, Srila Prabhupada writes 7 steps for us to gain the bona fide spiritual knowledge. I will just end my discussion by listing those 7 steps that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in that shloka. We all would have read that a zillion times. Maybe one more time we will read and just reiterate those 7 steps to qualify ourselves to learn the real process of Krishna consciousness. The 7 steps are: number 1, one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive knowledge. Tapan Mishra is doing. Number 1. Number 2, such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender. Just because you chose a spiritual master is not enough. We should accept that spiritual master in full surrender. Step 2. Step 3, one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant. I'm reading from 4.34 purport. One should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Step 4, satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Just because you did service is not enough. Did you do service for the satisfaction of the spiritual master? Was he satisfied or were you satisfied? Depends on what is our focus. So satisfaction of the spiritual master is step 4. Step 5 is inquiry and submission. So that's when we start asking questions, relevant questions. And number 6 is very interesting. One must be able to pass the test of a spiritual master. Just because you made an inquiry is not enough. You have to pass the test. That's the story of Dasarathi. Dasarathi was put through a test. He went and asked Ramanujacharya, please explain the purport of Sarva Dharman Parityajya. A wonderful long story. I have narrated that a couple of times in this forum. I'm sure most of you will know that. So, one must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada writes, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with the genuine spiritual understanding. So we will get genuine spiritual understanding at the 7th step. So 6 steps have to be done. So we will stop here and we will try to remember that we have a very responsible journey ahead, and we have a very responsible life ahead, both for ourselves and also for our dependents. So may we latch on to this process very tightly, very enthusiastically, and try to win ourselves and eventually win more and more souls to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Caitanya Bhagavata ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. If there are any questions or comments or reflections, I'll be happy to respond.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much. Such a nice, very, very insightful class. I loved all that you said. The importance of actually who a real Brahmana is, that was very nicely covered. I love the Mahabharata story. And towards the end, what you said is very true. When we serve the spiritual master, is it about his satisfaction or our satisfaction? I think every time we have to think twice when we are doing these services. You just said it on the go, but it was a very heavy statement, and I was just thinking about how I can apply that. So thank you so much. Very, very beautiful class.
Thank you so much. You always give me such selection of verses that it helps me to churn for myself. Thank you so much for engaging in the service.
We are grateful, Prabhu. The forum is open for question and answers. Devotees, whoever has questions, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam Prabhuji. If nobody is asking, can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have few more questions. The first question is, which Mahabharata book is recommended in ISKCON? Because when I preach, there are a lot of young girls and who doesn't know anything about Mahabharata. So I also feel some hesitation because I have not read and the authenticity need to be checked, and the words are not appropriate. So I just needed that which book or which
Well, we
how to identify which is
have a
authentic.
portion of Mahabharata already published, which is called Bhagavad Gita. So we can first focus on that. Prabhupada says that once we understand the basics
So
of
the short book means this only stories of Mahabharata.
I understand. So I'm coming to that.
Introduction.
The focus that Srila Prabhupada has always given us about whilst we all refer some stories and episodes from Mahabharata, this is to insist and highlight a specific point. A person, as of now, we do not have a full-on publications. I know few of the devotees are working on an elaborate version. I know at least two or three devotees working on publishing Mahabharata within ISKCON setup, but I don't know any one official version. There is one devotee by name Krishna Dharma Prabhu. He has published. I'm not sure if that publication is available in India in any of the stores. But the encouragement is that before even we jump to read stories of Mahabharata, we have enough stories and enough pastimes and lessons to learn from Krishna book, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So let's get the basics of understanding. So if any of your students, girls, friends have interest in learning stories, we have enough of them. I'm not discouraging somebody to not read Mahabharata, but we do not yet have an elaborate version that I know of. And also the focus that our acharyas have also not initially given us to jump into Mahabharata, rather they have given us to understand certain basic aspects of devotional life and slowly build it up from there. Is that okay?
Yeah, Prabhuji, next question is, you said that the Goswamis, here we are, the level of standard that Srila Prabhupada has set for us is the Brahmanas also have that standard, like we all should be a Goswami, right? So very practically it's not possible, even though it is a very high standard, even if we aspire. So we are impure, right? It means we are born out of our ahankara, and our ego is very subtle and it's not possible to reach. So how one person can be a revolutionary in preaching and be a Goswami? It's like very high expectation. So how you look into it in practical? Could you please share your view?
On our own, it's definitely a high expectation. But if you are with somebody who is already accomplished, it's a cakewalk. It is like this. When you are in Vrindavan Dham, the most difficult 16 rounds for us in city life becomes most easiest. The natural environment and the mode of operation in Vrindavan Dham or in the Vaishnava Sangha or in the assembly of self-realized souls, the most difficult things becomes easier. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langayate girim, etripadam ahammante, Shri Gurum Ginataranam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. That's what the story that we discussed. Is that on your own, if you study, on your own, if you try to, fight it out, try to clear off your ego, envy, pride, illusion, whatever vices, probably it will take aeons. Aeons means several thousands and millions and trillions of years. But still we won't be clean. But on the same contrary, Gato Mukundam Parikritti Kartyam. If somebody surrenders to the lotus feet of Mukunda, if somebody surrenders to those devotees who have surrendered to the lotus feet of Mukunda, if somebody who surrenders to those who have surrendered to those who have surrendered to the lotus feet of Mukunda, Gopi Bharata Padakamalayur, Dasa Das Das Das. If you surrender to such devotees, work with them, learn with them, serve under them, then you yourself will be surprised. Oh, is it me that I got cleansed? Srila Prabhupada writes in teachings of Lord Kapila. He says that our Krishna consciousness movement is such a sublime process that anyone who comes in contact with them and try to take advantage of this process, they get purified. And Prabhupada says, we look at the face of our devotees before they come into Krishna consciousness and after they have come into Krishna consciousness. He said how their face, their life, their personality got completely transformed So, and it's true. You go and check yourself out before coming to Krishna consciousness, after coming to Krishna consciousness. There will be change. There is a progress. So we are getting cleansed in spite of our nonsenses within ourselves. So the secret is what I mentioned about the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the 4-pointed. Select a spiritual master. Krishna Sikshadi Dikshanam, Dikshadi Sikshanam. And third is very affectionate, with affectionate zeal, serve and follow the saints. Prabhupada Goswami mentions is the way for it to crush your unwanted portions. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. And you said that you gave the 4 points, right? I'm missing the third point. Live without.
Live without pretending, hear without offending, speak without, live without pretending, hear without defending, speak without offending, love without expecting. Honesty, humility, compassion, and purity. Okay?
Yes, and one more is that, Prabhuji, there is one pastime where Krishna Bhagwan remembers one tree and that tree is dancing or the moving. So what that tree has done that the Krishna remembers him, like I'm very fascinated when I read that. So could you please give what he exactly did that Bhagwan, he made an compulsion Bhagwan to remember him. So could you please share?
There are so many people have done so much of tapasya. They have in fact chosen 5-19-21 Srimad Bhagavatam. All the demigods are praying to come to the earthly planets so that they can practice devotional life. There are people who has performed tapasya. I was hearing another class where it is mentioned Daksha, who made a grave mistake, who did a very big offense of offending Lord Shiva. So Daksha's first stint as a Prajapati was in the period of Swayambhuva Manu. There are 14 Manus. Swayambhuva Manu was the first Manu. So Daksha was in that period. And when he made a mistake and his head was chopped off by Lord Shiva and he was given a goat's head, he felt so ashamed. He felt guilty of his mistakes. So he went ahead to perform tapasya, repentance, atonement. And he reappeared as Daksha version 2.0 in the period of Chakshusha Manu, which is 6th or 7th Manu, the 14 list. It is said the time period between the first and sixth, the first, Daksha and second, and he appeared, 35 kalpas have passed. 35 kalpa, one kalpa is, 35 or 75 Chaturyugas have passed. One Chaturyuga is one time Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. So many years of atonement and endurance and tapasya he has done. I mean, this is probably one of the longest somebody would have done tapasya, maybe more, I do not know. The point I'm trying to say is we have seen in the Vedic literature acharyas and great personalities, for them to get Krishna's attention, they chose very long, strenuous and austere processes, and eventually they got Krishna. The superlative aspect of it is, in Kali Yuga, we don't need to go through such a long journey. Just by simply chanting the holy name of the Lord without committing offenses, you get the same credit of all those austerities of somebody who would have done. You're getting them just by being part of Sankirtanation. So those trees who danced with Krishna, there are so many sadhus, saints, so many brahmanas, so many bhaktas. They have done tapasya so that they get Krishna's attention, Krishna's touch. Krishna's association. So, and here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come personally down from the spiritual abode to be with us, take us along in this process, win us back home, back to Godhead. And this opportunity, you don't need to go through all those 25, 35, 40 kalpas of tapasya. Just simply follow the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers without committing an offense. That's all. Your journey is, your destination is confirmed. So I do not know what that particular tree tapasya, that tree has done tapasya, but for sure I know that it is not an easy one. But the same privilege is given to those devotees who have been part of Sankirtan mission. One devotee went to Srila Prabhupada and told Srila Prabhupada that Srila Prabhupada, I am blessed by the pujari of Shri Radha Ramanji temple, that in my next life I will become a pujari of Shri Radha Raman. Srila Prabhupada, with very firm and enthusiastically, Srila Prabhupada responded, please go and tell that pujari who is serving Radha Raman that he will get the opportunity in his next life to distribute transcendental literatures all over the world, being a devotee of our Sankirtan mission. So what we consider as glorious is already offered to us. We have to go beyond that. Make sense?
Yes. And the last question, if it's okay.
Unless anybody else have any other questions.
Yes, will do.
Okay, go ahead.
Prabhuji, say if a person is practicing and if he recognizes that he has a pride, and that is a mercy, right? So what exactly one has to do, the service, means what exactly we should practice in our service, that our spiritual master knows that we are concerned about this thing and he blesses or gives mercy or gives some way to recognize more and dissolve it. So is there any way? So
I'm not following your question.
say if I recognize that I have a pride, so that is a mercy, right, to recognize also. Then what I should do practically, so that my spiritual master gives some mercy and it gets dissolved in practical.
It is definitely good to know that you have disease, but it is not enough knowing. You have to go to the right doctor, buy the medicines, and regularly eat the entire course of medicine. So if you know you have pride, definitely one step is done. The remaining 3 steps have to be done. So spiritual master need not be specifically gone and told that how nonsense we are. Generally, spiritual authorities know we are all coming from a very muckier place. But then what needs to be done is about taking the spiritual tablets, spiritual medicines, wherein we perform menial services, our sadhana, some basics are very clearly done, avoiding offenses. So there is no new formula that somebody can give. Chanting, not committing offenses, association of devotees, performing some menial service with spiritual master, and making sure that we walk that path in a consistent, enthusiastic manner. आज किया कल नहीं किया परसों कहीं और जगह उछलेंगे, that's not okay. You have to do consistently, and this consistency is not 3 days, it's not 30 days, it's not 300 days, it is probably 30 years, probably 50 years, probably 3 lifetimes. Show that consistency, show that enthusiasm, and naturally your nature will get changed. So spiritual authorities, it is Krishna's duty, it is Krishna's nature to recognize you. It is impossible for Krishna and Krishna's servants to not recognize you. It is in Krishna's best interest to identify and recognize those who are clean from pride and those who are interested in getting cleansed from pride. Krishna is also equally lobbying for that. And if you are ready, Krishna will airlift you. Only that you should allow Krishna to airlift you. Only that you should cooperate with Krishna and Krishna's spiritual agents to work on you, which we generally don't. So just do the basics correctly under the bona fide association. Okay.
Ji Prabhuji, please accept my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet.
Hare
Please.
Krishna.
Thank you so much for answering. Hare Krishna.
Okay, if there are no further questions, probably we can stop. Otherwise, if there is any questions or comments, reflections, I'll be happy to answer.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you, Prabhu, for the very, very beautiful, thought-provoking class and your valuable association. We can end the call here. Thank you all, devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha krapa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bhagavat ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhuji ki jai.
Jai. Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And I'm grateful to you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Prabhuji.
Pranam to all respectful devotees. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. I'm the host. I'll end the call. Yeah.